Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Poulan 3300 chainsaw. Customer complaint is that it's hard starting, it doesn't seem to run right, and in fact after I questioned him some more, this saw hasn't run in a while. So, we're just going to look a few things over, but then we're going to go into the carburetor, put a kit in it, and see how it runs. So we looked into the fuel tank, and things seemed like he put fresh gas in there, right? But we don't know if there was old gas in there for a while before that. And for whatever reason, we did not pressure test the fuel line. I think the assumption being that we're just going to replace that line when we get to that point. And I say it like that because, I might have recorded this video a year ago. I have a folder full of video repairs, and I just pick one and start editing it. And that's another reason why you might see some older tools being used when we know from more recent videos that newer tools have replaced them. So just a little bit of backstory on what's going on here with the videos. Looking into the cylinder, it is what I would refer to as good enough. A little bit older, a little bit of wear, no scoring. Let's see what we got for spark. Nice. Pretty crisp spark there. We're going to put that plug back in. Air filter. I mean, at first glance, it looks decent. Felt type filter. Doesn't look like it's got any holes blown through it. That style filter is kind of prone to being damaged if you use compressed air on them. So I loosened the fuel cap so I could pop this fuel line off the carburetor and not have it leak everywhere. So that's all wonderful, but if you forget to tighten the cap back up before you flip the saw over, you end up with a leak, much bigger leak. You'll see here in a minute. You can already see a puddle forming underneath the saw. Yeah. All right, let's take the two 8mm nuts off of these studs that hold the carburetor in place. We got our choke lever that just kind of pops out of a saddle that it's sitting in with a rubber grommet. I don't know why I'm fighting it so much, but oops, there it is. Looking into the piston, the intake side of the skirt.
Pipes.
Yeah, my air nozzle, the plastic housing of it cracked right where the hose thread's in. So I had to epoxy it, and it's drying right now. So we're going to take off the cover on the carburetor over the metering diaphragm. Hurry up. And what do we find? We find a metering diaphragm that's a little stiff. And it might be just stiff enough that it's not working properly. Let's take a look at the fuel pump. Now on this side we'll also find the micro screen. There's the gasket, here's the pump. Pump doesn't seem terrible. Little bit of schmutz on the screen, but nothing that's going to stop this thing from running properly. We're just going to put some gaskets in here and keep moving on. Now, a lot of people will pull the high and low speed needles out and maybe put it in an ultrasonic cleaner or blow things out. I usually base that on what I'm finding for grunge in there or old fuel. Honestly, most of my carb refresh efforts are just the gaskets. Sometimes I'll back the needles out and blow a little carb cleaner through there, but I've kind of gotten away from the ultrasonic cleaner. I found that if you got to take the time to strip it down, put it in a cleaner, make sure it's dry, then put it back together, you start talking about labor and other things. Well, I'm probably just going to replace the carburetor if I got to go through all that. Now, well, there's no time involved in ultrasonic cleaner, right? If you put it in there for 15 minutes, maybe do that twice, that's a half an hour. You could be doing other things, but you can't be doing them in the same spot where your saw is that you're working on. I mean, that's all tore apart on the bench, right? So you need other bench space, or you need other projects to work on. You got to change gears upstairs and start thinking about a different project while you're working on this one. That stuff was all, you have to factor it in when you're making this decision on what to do. Now, there's a lot of cases where a replacement carburetor is too expensive or maybe not available, and you don't have a choice, but I've really been trying to steer away from putting carbs in the ultrasonic cleaner. So back to this one, the kit has a few different style gaskets here. You notice that one of them's got a little hole there and the other one doesn't. So I got 3 different gaskets. We're going to match it up to the original one here. Either gasket A, gasket B, or gasket C. Well, I guess it was gasket C. Looks like it fits on there pretty good. Everything lines up. Any holes or passages and any locating pins. Here's our metering diaphragm and our cover. Wipe the schmutz off the cover. Get that in place. So, some of you have been asking what you can do to support the channel. I don't ever ask anyone to subscribe or like or comment or whatever other monkey business I hear in every other video I watch. If you like it, you're going to like it. If you want to make a comment, wonderful. But some of you have been asking, and I actually have stickers that I've had made up. And if you want to support the channel, I'll have a link to my eBay store where you can buy these stickers. If you do, that'd be wonderful. I appreciate everyone that watches and comments on these videos. So back to our repair. We were going to put the carburetor on, but we forgot we had to replace the fuel line. So we're going to dump the fuel out, which we should have done right off the bat. You know what? I'm not perfect. I forgot to dump the fuel out. Got some of it on my bench, got some of it on my shirt. There's the old fuel line, and obviously that needed to be replaced. Look at the age of that thing. So we're going to snip the new fuel line on an angle so we can easily push it through the top of the tank. And then we'll reach through and we'll grab that end of that fuel line and pull it through. Now there's a lot of different ways to do this. This way seems to work for me. Using a wire and a hook sometimes is needed, but most of the time I can get by with just reaching in and grabbing the hose and pulling it through. So pushing the line on the carburetor can be difficult sometimes. And in order to fix that problem, you know, I stop at a lot of garage sales and flea markets and whatever looking for tools. And I found this OTC snap ring pliers, and I just ground the tip to a point. And I use that to push it in the fuel line and then gently stretch that fuel line. And you got to be careful about how much you're going to stretch it, because you could actually kind of damage the fuel line, and then it's not going to stay tight on the carburetor, or it's not going to hold a filter decent. So I just gently stretch it a little bit, just enough to kind of warm up the plastic, make it easier to push the filter on. And this tool that I have here, even though it's whatever, an OTC brand or whatever, you can use any old snap ring pliers and just modify it. There's probably some, you know, needle nose you could modify. A lot of different tools. But that seems to work pretty good. All right, we've got our carburetor on. We got our new fuel line in there. We can bolt it down. 8mm socket. There's our vent line. We just push that off to the side. Choke lever seems to be working properly. Throttle seems to be working properly. I really should take that shop rag and just squeeze that fuel back into the tank, right? That's got to be a big tank, though. Look how much is in that funnel. And look how much leaked on the table. All right, so we're going to get ready to see if this thing's going to run. Alright, so that's all I'm going to have for you on the Poulan 3300 chainsaw that wasn't running so good and needed a carb kit. Thanks for watching. Later.